promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasted on 94.9 FM in Dakar and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. Catholic bishops in Côte d'Ivoire meet to call for fair, transparent, peaceful presidential elections.
Cette élection nouvelle ne doit pas se transformer en crise sociale avec son...
This new election must not escalate into a social crisis, bringing with it inter-community conflicts, family disintegration.
In Ghana, former National Signals Bureau Director arrested over $7 million cybersecurity scandal.
So if Afenyo Markin, the Honorable Minority Leader, is daring me, will make that recording available. So he should desist from maligning law enforcement officers and myself.
International Monetary Fund says no talks with Senegalese government on new program until misreporting is addressed. And Liberia National Police unveils innovative 5-year strategic plan focused on soft security. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Ahead of the presidential elections in Côte d'Ivoire, the Conference of Catholic Bishops is calling for fair, transparent, inclusive and peaceful polls next October. According to the bishops of Côte d'Ivoire, political and social actors must use the remaining 8 months to the elections to work towards national stability. More details in Abidjan with Albenade and voiced by Gossin Colley.
The president of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of Côte d'Ivoire, Monsignor Marcelin Yaoukou-Wadr, first recalled the deadly political crisis that Côte d'Ivoire has experienced, a form of reminder as if to underline the need to preserve peace while the country prepares to organize the presidential election in 7 months.
Cette élection nouvelle ne doit pas se transformer en crise sociale avec son...
This new election must not escalate into a social crisis, bringing with it inter-community conflicts, family disintegration, delinquency, deceit, humiliation, and dehumanization. It is common during electoral periods under the influence of politicians for the people of our country, who naturally cherish life over death, to turn against one another, forgetting that they share a common home, Côte d'Ivoire.
Au point d'oublier qu'ils n'ont qu'une maison commune, la Côte d'Ivoire.
The Conference of Catholic Bishops of Côte d'Ivoire calls on the government to guarantee inclusive and transparent elections for a peaceful vote next October. The Ivorian bishops also called on the Independent Electoral Commission to be impartial and to engage in constant dialogue with all stakeholders in the electoral process. Monsignor Marcelin Yaoukou-Wadr also appealed to young people, asking them not to lose sight of the values of fraternity in the electoral contest and to resist the sirens of violence. Finally, the Catholic bishops of Côte d'Ivoire stressed the need to maintain a climate of mutual respect between political parties. As a reminder, during his address to the nation in December 2024, Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara promised that the presidential election next October will be peaceful, transparent, and democratic.
That was a report by our Abidjan correspondent, Albenade, and voiced by Gossin Colley. Now, still talking governance, a pro-democracy coalition has urged Nigerian President Bola Tinubu to establish a reconciliation committee within 14 days to address the ongoing political crisis in Rivers State, south of the country. The coalition of civil society in defense of democracy made a call following President Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in the oil-rich state, which led to the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and the Rivers State House of Assembly for 6 months. Usman Umar reports.
Olayemi Isaacs, convener of the Coalition of Civil Society in Defense of Democracy, condemned the state of emergency in Rivers State, calling it a forced peace that shields deeper tensions. He accused President Tinubu of backing Nyesom Wike, who he blamed for the crisis, and urged a non-partisan panel to mediate within 60 days, warning that prolonging emergency rule could destabilize Nigeria's democracy.
The Coalition of the Civil Society in Defense of Democracy demands immediately that the President Tinubu, within 14 days, set up a panel of non-partisan, eminent Nigerians to mediate between the rival parties in the Rivers State crisis. The mediatory effort must be concluded within 60 days so that the state of emergency can be lifted within 90 days of its declaration. Anything other than that will bring about a political pandemonium or chaos or anarchy, which is not our expectation.
Meanwhile, the emergency declaration has drawn criticism from various individuals and groups, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, who expressed concerns about the implications for democracy and governance in the country. In a related development, a group of women gathered in Port Harcourt, capital of the state, to pray for peace in Rivers State, calling for divine intervention to restore stability.
We have been coming out to pray and intercede for peace in our state, Rivers State, for restoration, because we know that if anything goes south, it will affect us.
We are here to pray for peace, for God to restore peace in Rivers State as a whole. Let there be peace. Why we are praying for peace? Because if peradventure anything happen, it will affect everybody in the state.
For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Burkina Faso, the president and vice president of the Association of Journalists of Burkina, Zugoma Sanogo and Bukari Oba, were arrested and taken to an undisclosed location on Monday. This arrest occurred just 3 days after the association's General Assembly, where the two men criticized the shrinking space for freedoms in the country. Reporter from Ouagadougou by Martin Kaba and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
The information has been confirmed by colleagues who are members of the Association of Journalists of Burkina. President Guazomo Sanogo and Vice President Bukari Waba were detained on Monday, March 24. According to a post on the official social media account of the AJB, the two journalists were taken by individuals identifying themselves as intelligence officers from the CMP-NZ to an unknown destination. During its extraordinary congress, the president of the Association of Journalists of Burkina had described RTB Television and AIB as propaganda tools, denouncing the government's control over these public media outlets. Given the deepening crisis, the current trend is complete control by MPSR2 over public media, with RTB Television and AIB becoming the two main propaganda tools, stated Guazoma Sanogo. In a statement released shortly after the arrest, Reporters Without Borders expressed regret over the detentions. The method of operation and arrest carried out by individuals claiming to be intelligence officers echoes numerous other arrests and abductions orchestrated by military authorities since they came to power. The war effort promoted by the leader of the Burkinabe junta, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is once again being used as a pretext to dismantle journalism in Burkina Faso, the organization said in its statement.
Martin Kaba in Ouagadougou filed a report and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now connect to Mali, where Boare Fili Sissoko's health is deteriorating day by day. In prison for more than 3.5 years, a former Minister of Economy and Finance is accused of corruption and damage to public property in the so-called affair of the purchase of the presidential plane and the overcharging of military equipment. The trial was suspended last October after several weeks of hearings. His lawyer filed a new request for provisional release on medical grounds on Monday. Well, we do have details from our correspondent in Bamako, Alicham, and voiced by Christopher Aticho.
In recent weeks, Boare Fili Sissoko's health has deteriorated alarmingly. According to his lawyers, Gianguina Tunkara, he filed a new request for provisional release under judicial supervision on Monday. Contacted by WADR, Mr. Tunkara did not wish to comment further, indicating that he would make a decision after examining his request. In prison for more than 3.5 years, the former Minister of Economy and Finance suffers, according to her own statement, from heart problems, high blood pressure, and sickle cell disease. Last Friday, Prosecutors from the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal visited Bole, the women's prison in Bamako, to inquire about her health. As a reminder, Bawri Fili Sissoko, who is being prosecuted, along with a dozen other former figures. They are all accused of alleged corruption and damage to public property in the case of the purchase of the presidential plane and the overcharging for military equipment in 2014. This amount embezzled amounts to more than 130 billion CFA funds. The former Minister of the Economy, who has also maintained her innocence, is asking to be tried to, I quote, clear her name. The trial was suspended last October after several weeks of hearing to allow new witnesses to be heard at the request of the representative of the state and the public prosecutor. Former Prime Ministers Musa Mara and Umar Tatamli and former Minister-designate for the budget Madani Toure were questioned by the Supreme Court a few weeks ago. No date has been set for the resumption of the trial.
Aluchami Bamako filed a report and voiced by Christopher Atichon. We head to Ghana, where a former National Signals Bureau NSB director, Kwabena Adu-Boahene, has been arrested over an alleged $7 million cybersecurity scandal. Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine says investigations by anti-corruption agencies uncovered financial irregularities, including fraudulent transactions and unauthorized fund transfers linked to a cyber defense system contract. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Tete report.
Ghana's Attorney General and Minister of Justice Dr. Dominic Ayine has confirmed the arrest of former National Signals Bureau Director Kwabena Adu-Boahene over alleged financial misconduct involving some 49 million Ghana cedis, an equivalent of $7 million cyber defense contract. Speaking at a press briefing, Dr. Ayine disclosed that the deal signed on January 30, 2020 between the government of Ghana and an Israeli firm RLC Holdings Limited was intended to enhance Ghana's cybersecurity capabilities. However, shortly after the agreement was finalized, irregular financial transactions raised red flags.
In essence, the difference between 49 million Ghana cedis being the money Mr. Adu-Boahene transferred from the bank account of the National BNC to his private BNC and 9.5 million being the money he actually paid to the ISC Holdings for the software ended up with him and his wife. That is to say that the sum of 39,462,480 Ghana cedis of taxpayers' money went into their private pocket.
Dr. Ayine further revealed that the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, has been tracking Adu-Boahene's financial activities, uncovering millions of cedis in suspicious transactions since 2018. Investigations indicate that Adu-Boahene, along with his wife and associate Angela J. Boateng, acquired multiple high-value properties, including luxury homes in Accra's Mayfair Estates, a 27-house gated estate in Oyarifa, and undisclosed properties in London. The government has assured that legal proceedings will commence soon, with Dr. Ayine reaffirming its commitment to holding individuals accountable for financial mismanagement. He also issued a stern warning to current appointees.
Now, I also want to take this opportunity to tell everyone in public office who's listening to me that if you engage in anything like what Mr. Adu-Boahene has done, or any act of criminality, I will not wait. I will come after you.
For WADR, Nadi Tete, Accra.
Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament has accused the government of harassing appointees of the previous administration following recent searches conducted on persons of interest in numerous cases. Addressing the meeting in Parliament, Deputy Minority Chief Whip and MP for Jagbawi, Jerry Ahmed Shuaib cautioned the Attorney General and Minister of Justice and the National Security against abusing the offices. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, however, denied these claims.
So we obtain warrants, and if the media wants, I can make those warrants available. Okay, so there was no raid on his house, and there was nothing illegal or unconstitutional about what we did. But they are deciding to bastardize me and to bastardize the operatives of the national security by even saying that during the raid, which for me wasn't a raid, it was a constitutionally sanctioned search, they stole 10,000 Ghana cedis. You know, the constitutional immunity granted to MPs does not mean that they should abuse that immunity and then, defame individuals or officials who are conducting normal business, normal public business. All right. And ladies and gentlemen of the media, let me tell you, we have a recording of Addison and what he said about the rate. So if Afenyo Markin, the honorable minority leader, is daring me, will make that recording available. So he should desist from maligning law enforcement officers and myself.
Ghana's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, speaking there. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Catholic bishops in Côte d'Ivoire meet to call for fair, transparent, peaceful presidential elections. In Ghana, former National Signals Bureau director arrested over $700 million cybersecurity scandal. International Monetary Fund says no talks with Senegalese government on new program until misreporting address. That's on the other half of the news. And Liberia National Police unveils innovative 5-year strategic plan focused on soft security. We will have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org, YouTube and Facebook for our live streams. Now, the International Monetary Fund said on Monday that talks on a new program for Senegal could not go ahead until the government addressed the misreporting of key economic data under the previous government. Recall the IMF suspended its existing $1.8 billion credit facility to Senegal pending a review of state finances, which confirmed last month that the debt and budget deficit were much wider than former President Macky Sall's administration had reported. Finance Minister Sheikh Jiba said Senegal was hoping for a new IMF program by June. Senegal's Court of Auditors last month released a long-awaited review of the country's finances that confirmed the previous government's reported key economic data, including debt and deficit figures. At the end of 2023, the total outstanding debt represented 99.67% of gross domestic product, the court's report said. That compared with a previously recorded figure of 74.41%. Meanwhile, faced with severe weather and flooding in recent years, Senegal has discontinued its dedicated program cloud seeding. Aida Diongue Niang, Director of Meteorology, told the state media. According to Niang, the Bawan program, which was conceived after the 2002 drought to increase the rainfall rate, particularly in the Arakida Basin, has been suspended in light of recent rainfall events. It said the country no longer needs to induce rain when it's already grappling with flood risk, especially in densely populated urban areas. Now, nearly 2 decades later, Senegalese government has decided to end the cloud seeding program, citing a shift in climate patterns, particularly the increasingly heavy rainfall seen in recent years. Niang noted that the initiative stood as a pioneering moment for regional climate cooperation. In a move to enhance public safety, the Liberia National Police, LNP, has launched a groundbreaking 5-year strategic plan centered on the concept of soft security. Inspector General Gregory Coleman announced that this new approach will shift away from traditional hard enforcement methods, often linked to violence, and instead prioritize soft security interventions. Inspector Coleman emphasized that by prioritizing engagement, the LNP seeks to create a safer and more resilient society for all Liberians.
Over the next 5 years, the Liberia National Police strategic plan will focus more on soft security than just hard and physical security, where we are looking at our intervention in soft security issues, alternative sustainable livelihood, different community initiatives to help as a means of crime reduction and conflict prevention, whether it's by small projects that will give opportunity to young people or any other way. If this country must get on the right path, it has to start from the police. That the first place for all to start, to acknowledge that we live in a civilized society, that we must respect laws to live as human beings. Once we start to enforce laws, police officers start to uphold the ethics, then we know that the society is on course. We'll continue to engage in dialogue, we'll invoke the do no harm concept, and we'll make sure that our intervention does no harm, that it does not prolong or escalate anything we get involved with. That's why we always seek a peaceful means to de-escalate the situation. We are going to be reaching out to communities to build stronger ties, stronger relationships that are anti-fragile, that if even tested, it will not break. It could dent, it could bend, but it will never break.
Liberia's Police Chief Gregory Coleman.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Well, let's remain in Liberia as Abraham Parker brings us a newspaper review.
On today's edition of Press Review, we begin with the Heritage newspaper with the first headline: President Bouaka distributes 5,500 bags of rice to Muslims for Ramadan. A new dawn for Liberia's maritime industry as President Bouaka sets sail for port transformation. To electrify Southeast, government of Liberia, European Union partners launch high-level mission. To the back page of the Heritage newspaper, President Bouaka appoints key government officials, strengthening leadership across key ministries. For forced entry into representing the Colobas vehicle, Liberia National Police suspends officers. Next up is a newspaper. Government sued at ECOWAS court over removal of Glasgow from NAFA. Human Rights Commissioner demands suspension of Ministry of Finance and Development Planning official linked to torture. To the back page of the nation's news, government of Liberia and partners begin 5-day field mission to electrify the Southeast. War TB data observed in Liberia. Our next stop will be the Independent newspaper. AFL begin military patrols to boost national security. Deputy Speaker Fala linked it to stealing of LD 31 million as activists call it racist red flag. To the back page of the Independent newspaper, over 200 MCSS schools risk closure. Up next, Daily Observer newspaper. Speaker Coons bloc rejects ECOWAS mediation delegates over protocol breach, but House of Representatives Press Bureau clarifies that the information is far from third. Salala Rubber Corporation's revival brings hope and dignity to workers. To the back page of Daily Observer newspaper, Liberian chef sets Guinness World Record for longest cooking maritime, and the rest of the stories on Daily Observer newspaper are all repeating stories. Well, that does it for today's edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. It's back to you, and thanks for listening.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker, with the review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment takes us back to Ghana, where the anti-corruption push by President John Mahama administration seems to be intensifying. This follows several arrests of personnel and office holders of previous administration of Nana Akufo-Addo, which has been termed as harassment by the minority in parliament. However, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, has denied those claims. Our guest, Anthony Akwiye, a security expert, takes a look at this and other issues.
Yes, I'm back of fighting against corruption. In this case, the one that took place in the erstwhile administration, led by the Nanado administration, is how we say that it is a promise that Mahama government promised Ghanaians. And this is a signal that, as he indicated, that he is resetting Ghana. It is not just a signal to the, I would say, the erstwhile appointees and those who are also appointed within either the public sector or the private sector, which the government might have partnership with. And that probably took advantage of that appointment by creating some kind of corruption within their domain. It is a signal that also sends to the current appointees that are being appointed by President to be managing other state assets or any private collaboration with the state in terms of any domain. I can tell you for a fact that from the kind of information that is coming up, just yesterday, the Attorney General had a press conference engaging the media on some critical evolving issue. One, he made mention was the Mr. Edubwani. Mr. Edubwani happened to be the head of the National Signal Agency or Authority. And for that matter, a contract with regard to cyber security defense system that he was supposed to purchase, and that collaboration with Israel, according to the Attorney General's office, that amounted to $7 million. And out of that money, about 39 million CD was just, were nowhere to be found. And that even contrasts, as it stands now, we do not have any value for money.
But the opposition are saying this is a witch hunt, especially those in the parliament. Do you see that as a witch hunt?
It is really unfortunate that institutions that have been mandated by the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, to uphold the principle of their domain, applying those principles to ensure that the public purse are being, safeguarded. And unfortunately, coming from the domain of Parliament, which is the minority side, trying to cast shadows on the activity or the very, program that have been mounted by these institutions. But for me, as a security expert, I think that in the domain of security, depending on what really happened, that will determine the approach that the security are supposed to use. So any, comment by the minority, of course, they are the minority, they will have their say. But it is important for them to understand that institutions are being mandated to do what they are doing. And it is clear, they have come out that even with the raid, of course, they did have the warrant, from court to go there and do whatever they have to do. So if they are operating within the domain of the law, then where lies the minority speech by condemning the activity?
Anthony Akwes again, and the security expert. In sport news, Nigeria Super Eagles are determined to secure a crucial victory against the Warriors of Zimbabwe in their 2026 FIFA World Cup African Qualification Series Match Day 6 encounter at the Gospel Akpabio Stadium in Uyo. With a win, Nigeria aims to climb to 9 points and strengthen its chances of securing a World Cup ticket. Team captain William Ekong has emphasized the team's focus on securing all 3 points, stressing that there is no room for further slip-up. The Super Eagles currently sit in 4th place in Group C with 6 points following their victory over Rwanda in Kigali. Meanwhile, Thomas Partey and Mohamed Kudus strengthened Ghana's bid for a place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup, while Cote d'Ivoire won to return to the top of their qualifying group. 4-time continental champions Ghana failed to reach the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, but the Black Stars sit 5 points clear of second place Madagascar in Group I following their 3-0 victory against the Islanders. Ghana was also helped as Mali, the top seeds in their group, were held to a goalless draw away against Central African Republic. The Eagles are third, 6 points behind Ghana, with 4 rounds of 10-game campaign remaining. Cote d'Ivoire moved to the top of Group F, a point ahead of Gabon. Sebastian Haller's first half header was enough to settle a nervy home encounter with the Gambia. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sheikh Jai for the technical support. To connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.